From the Daily Reporter, this is Ethan Duran. Welcome to Brews and Blueprints, a podcast about construction and development across Wisconsin. Hello, I'm Ethan Duran of the Daily Reporter, and this is the Brews and Blueprints podcast. Today, I'm talking with John Mielke, the president of the Associated Builders and Contractors of Wisconsin. Recently, the association announced Kelly Tourdot will be the next president September 20, and Mielke will move on to be the next senior director of apprenticeship for ABC National. Thanks for being on the show, John.
Hey, thanks, Ethan. I'm happy to be here.
We have quite a bit I want to talk about, your experiences with ABC. And I want to start off by asking, what got you into construction? How did you get your start and get in with the association?
Yeah, I was working for another organization right out of college. We were monitoring state spending and reporting on where the state was spending its dollars. And I needed a job. And I knew the lobbyist for ABC at the time. He said, you should come work for us. We're looking for an apprenticeship coordinator. And I thought I would come check him out, maybe stay there a year or two. And so I found something else. And it turned out 32 years later, I was still at ABC. So it must have been a good gig.
Is your background more in... when you went to school, was that for construction or engineering, or were you more poli-sci or?
Yeah, exactly. I was a political science major, communications major. I worked in the Capitol for a summer. I worked on some campaigns, and I was pretty sure that my future was in politics in one way or another. Enjoyed it. It's part of the reason why I was, the government affairs director for a number of years here at ABC. I was a local elected official in my community for about 10 years, which I really enjoyed. So I wasn't going to be a construction guy or an association guy. I was going to stick in politics, but I found this job, and the people that you work with, members and staff, and the work that you get to do is just tremendously rewarding. So it's been a really good ride for 3 decades.
That's great to hear. And you're moving on to this new position as a senior director of apprenticeship for the national organization. Tell me a little bit about that new role and what got you sticking with apprenticeships in particular?
Yeah, like I said, when I started here at ABC, I was an apprenticeship coordinator, and I always really just enjoyed the work and the reward of seeing people enter the trades and the career that they had. It's really fun to watch at our graduation ceremony, young people come across, and some not so young people come across the stage with the look of pride and accomplishment that they have, and knowing that they've got a good, solid career going into the future. So that's tremendously rewarding. The other thing is, you reach a point in your career where helping out, giving back, wanting to be a resource for others is appealing. And that's kind of where I'm at in my career is, you want to give back to the industry and the organization that's given so much to you. This opportunity came up at ABC National. They called me. It sounded like a good fit. The more we talked about it, the more I was excited about it. I had mentioned to our executive committee probably about a year ago that I wasn't planning to finish my career as the president of ABC Wisconsin, and I was looking for some other engaging, interesting opportunity. So this has been something that's been in the works for a while. The transition's been in the works for a while, and that's part of the reason why I'm confident the transition will be so smooth.
That's great. Tell me, are we going to still see you in the Madison area in the future, or will you travel between there and DC?
Yeah, I'll be based out of Wisconsin, but traveling to chapters around the country. So I'll have to get used to airports and airplanes. I guess that might be the downside, but it'll be fun to see my peers and counterparts from around the country as they visit their chapters, talk to them about best practices, talk to them about how they might grow their apprenticeship program, learn what they're doing great and spread that to the other chapters. I mean, we have 68 chapters around the country, and those 68 chapters are running over 450 apprenticeship programs. So there's a lot going on. The biggest challenge for me in the beginning will be just getting my arms around what's happening out there in the different chapters. Everybody's doing it just a little bit different. There are some things that are common across all apprenticeships, but everybody's got their own special sauce and the way they manage it. So it'll just be fun to see all that, try to get my head around it, and start for looking for ways that I can add value.
I've heard talked to some construction executives before, local construction executives who've gone out to the national level, and I'm sure it's a really exciting experience getting to learn, especially from other parts of the country, because they face different problems, sometimes construction wise, but we share a lot of the same problems as well in the industry. Have you had the chance to reach out to your national peers yet and shake hands with people from across the country? And if so, what's kind of your impression?
Yeah, that's actually the hardest part of taking this job is, we have a chapter president's council made up of chapter presidents from all those 68 chapters. And we get together several times a year and we share ideas and best practices and support each other in our roles. And it's really like a fraternity. And I've gotten to know all 68 of those chapter presidents to one degree or another over the years. There's half of them who have become very good friends that I stay in touch with regularly, and maybe half that I just meeting and learning about. But kind of leaving that fraternity of chapter the fraternity of chapter presidents and moving on to the national staff is kind of bittersweet, right? I won't have that same kind of relationship with those chapter presidents as I do now, being a peer and a colleague, but I'll still get to work with them in this new capacity as an apprenticeship director. And, I'll still get to see them, but, we got together on a regular basis and, you get to know their family and you get to know their victories and their defeats. And it's, it's just a neat relationship to have with people like that around the country.
And the ABC Wisconsin chapter, that's the biggest chunk of or sort of one of the largest chapters in the national organization. Is that correct?
Yeah, the biggest chapter is New Jersey, and then they have about 1,200 members, and then Wisconsin has just over 1,000. We have about 1,035 or 39, depending on the day. But yeah, in terms of the organization chapters, those are the two big ones. And then there are a number that are in the 500 member range and a number that are in the 300 member range. But some states have multiple chapters, right? So Michigan has 3 chapters, Texas has 5 chapters, Florida has 4 chapters. So it's a little bit of an apples to oranges comparison because we cover the whole state. But, there's 5 million people in Wisconsin and there's 25 million people in Texas. So the markets are a little bit different.
Right, proportions. I just outed myself not getting my homework right there. We'll move on, but let's take this back to talking about the local organization here in Wisconsin. You've been here for 20 plus years, which is about as long as I've been alive. How has the organization changed since you started?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been on a growth trajectory on every level. When I started, we had, I don't remember specifically, but it might have been 600 members and 400 apprentices and probably 10 staff. Sitting here today, we're over that 1,000 member mark. We're over 2,400, almost 2,500 apprentices, 25 full-time staff, very capable, some long-term staff people and some brand new talent. The budgets have grown. We're financially sound. We have adequate reserves. We've got an engaged voluntary leadership. So that's been great. It's just been a growth pattern, a growth trajectory since I started at ABC, and particularly in the last maybe 15 years or 12 years, it's really grown as well. The one thing that hasn't changed is just the quality of our members. I mean, they're just good people, right? They're often small business owners, family-run businesses. People have built businesses from the ground up. They're active in their community. They donate to the Little League. They're part of the Rotary. They're helping out with the church, and that's just people all across the state of Wisconsin doing that. And it's really what makes the state great is people like that and people like our members, and hearing their stories of success and the American dream of starting a business and watching it grow and passing it on to your kids. And that hasn't changed, right? That narrative has run through the membership since the day I got here, and it still does today.
Tell me about your successor, Kelly Tourdot. You two have worked together for a long time, and even through promotions, and now she's going to be the next president. How are you feeling? What are your hopes and expectations for her?
Well, I know she's going to do a fantastic job. She's extremely capable. I knew 12 years ago when I was named president, I knew, what my shortcomings were and where I needed someone to help me in my blind spots and my weaknesses. And Kelly was a perfect fit for that. And over those years, she's demonstrated, nothing but competence, and she's going to do a great job. She's going to put her, mark on the organization, just like I did in my predecessor before me, and take it in directions that her and the voluntary leaders think there are opportunities, and that's exciting. It's going to be exciting to watch. But as far as my confidence and her ability, it's 100%. Like I mentioned to you that we talked about this with the executive team about a year ago. It was always presumed, I guess maybe is the wrong word, but we always planned that Kelly would succeed me, and we worked to make that happen. I think it's the responsible thing to do for an organization is to make sure you identify who the people who are going to follow you are, and when that transition happens, you can hand over the keys, and there's very little danger of faltering because it's just the organization is in great hands.
Now, ABC is representing more than 1,000 members at this point. Have there been any added since?
Yeah, there actually have. We had, I think, 20 some in our last board meeting for approval. So I think the number's like 1,040 right now. And I'm sure we'll have a couple more before the year's out. It's also interesting to note that of that number, 80% of those are contractors. So we're contractor heavy. We value all of our members and our associate supplier members for sure, but we're associated builders and contractors. So we pay attention to make sure that, the contractors are well represented in the membership and in the leadership.
How are those companies spread out geographically?
Like the population of the state of Wisconsin, the majority of those are kind of concentrated from Madison to Milwaukee up to Green Bay, and then, kind of a smattering in the center of the state and in the northern part of the state. We do have a significant representation in Eau Claire and La Crosse, and another kind of pocket in the Marshfield, Wausau, Stevens Point area. But, some of those counties where there's not a lot of development going on, we don't have heavy membership representation. But I would say, off the top of my head, 2/3 of the membership is probably in that Madison, Milwaukee, Green Bay corridor.
So, given how many members are across the state here, I'm sure they have a pretty good pulse on just what's going on in construction in the state in general, which leads me to my next question. What do you think of the state of the construction industry in Wisconsin? And, how does ABC help address some of the issues out there?
Yeah, I mean, the things that you worry about as a contractor is backlog and how much work do you have in the pipeline, and are you going to keep busy? And both through the metrics that we use and anecdotally, our members are feeling pretty good about the backlog. We're in uncertain times a little bit in this season with the presidential campaign and, the Fed's talking about interest rate moves and the stock market reacting, and all those things have an impact on the economy. And obviously the economy has an impact on construction. But right now, people are cautiously optimistic. They feel good about their backlog, and they feel good that, they're going to continue to have a good year in 2025. We hope that's the case. There are challenges, obviously. One of the big challenges is workforce development, as you mentioned. That's a big deal. There's 500,000 job openings in construction across the country, and registered apprenticeship graduates across nationwide graduates about 45,000 skilled tradespeople. So if we were going to rely, look, apprenticeship is the preferred entry method to the construction industry. There's no doubt about it. ABC Wisconsin is committed to it, evident by the 2,500 apprentices that we have in the program. But if we only rely on apprenticeship to bring workers into the trade, it's going to take us 12 years to fill those 500,000 jobs, and we don't have that kind of time. So apprenticeship is important. It's a key. I would say it's the centerpiece, but it can't be the only strategy. So we're reaching out to other folks, and we have people on staff here whose full-time occupation, full-time job is to get into the high schools, get into the middle schools, encourage people to take a look at the career path in construction, convince parents that it's a good thing. I mean, when you look at someone who starts a 4-year college education and maybe has to finance that through student loans, and someone else who starts an apprenticeship, which is an earn while you learn model, over that 4-year period, that apprentice is going to be about $200,000 ahead of the college applicant. So, it's a good career. It's a good way to learn, and it's important that we bring people into our industry.
Now, I know you said apprenticeship is not just the only way to get into construction. Do other programs come to mind? Any other alternatives? I'm thinking off the top of my head, there must be some good construction programs in the Universities of Wisconsin system, or the many technical colleges we have in our regions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got a number of quality programs in the UW system, not the least of which is Platteville and Stout and UW-Madison and Milwaukee. And, there's some really good programs out there. In other parts of the country, they're heavy into what we call craft training, which is often the same academic, program. They're using the same curriculum as registered apprenticeship, but they're not in a registered apprenticeship program. They're in a craft training programs. It's not a program recognized by either the state or the federal's agencies as an apprenticeship program. But there's a lot of people going through craft training, and I suppose that this, in a similar sense, there are folks that are going to technical colleges and learning parts of the trade. I think, again, apprenticeship is the gold standard. It's the best way to learn the trade and the best way to have a comprehensive view of the trade. But there are other avenues that certainly work. And this is kind of an all of the above approach that we need to take to address the workforce shortage.
Feeling good about any upcoming projects maybe your members are working on, or, we had our top project ceremony as well. And, anything that comes to mind that strikes your fancy?
Well, I don't know if they're top projects or projects that were necessarily, of note, but really, multifamily buildings in and around Madison, in and around Milwaukee are hot. In the Minneapolis market, it's hot. We have members that do a lot of that kind of work, and they're busy trying to meet the housing needs. I think fewer and fewer. I could say this now that I'm 58 years old. Fewer and fewer young people want to buy a house in a yard in the suburbs, and they like the downtown vibe, and they like living in the middle of the city center. And so that's a lot of the work that our members are seeing.
Awesome. That's about everything for me, John. I appreciate it. Was there anything else you would like to talk about while we're recording?
No, just the fact that, they always say they should leave at a high point, on a high note. So ABC Wisconsin's at a high note. We're strong. We're doing well. We've got a great team. We've got great voluntary leaders, well positioned for the next chapter of this organization. I'm looking forward to that, to see what that is, and I'm just really looking forward to joining the national team and getting to work with other chapters around the country. Looking forward to the challenge.
Because it's August 29th while we're recording, do you have any Labor Day plans?
Yeah, I'm going camping with my wife, just the two of us, and there's a threshery in Edgerton. You ever been to a threshery?
I have not.
It's like a cross between a farm implement show and a state fair. So there'll be food and drink and music and hopefully good weather. So it'll be fun.
Okay, it sounds like a lot of fun. All right, thanks for being on the show, John.
All right, thanks, Ethan.